What's going on in this store after dark? That question wouldn't leave Pierce Callahan's mind as he sat in his office, staring at the report. He'd inherited the six-store warehouse retail chain from his father 3 years ago. It had been running well, at least on paper. But lately, the night shift numbers from Store 4 in Elmswood weren't adding up. Inventory losses, overtime spikes, and an unusual number of workplace injury claims, mostly minor, but still. When the district manager brushed it off as just night crew stuff, Pierce decided he'd had enough of second-hand answers. He was going down there himself. No one on the Elmswood night shift had ever met him. Most had only worked there a year or two, and Pierce had never visited their store in person. So he grew out some stubble, dyed his hair a dirty blonde, and ditched the suits. With a backstory as Jake, a new temp hired to help with overnight stocking, he stepped through the warehouse doors at 10:58 p.m., 2 minutes early for his first shift. "Yo, new guy," a voice called from behind a pallet of canned soup. "Back here?" Pierce followed the voice to a wiry guy in his early 20s. Name tag said, Emilio. He had a relaxed way of talking, but his eyes didn't miss much. "I'm Emilio. I'll show you around. Don't expect anyone to hold your hand here. If you work, you're good. If you don't, you're gone." Pierce nodded. "Got it. I'll keep up." The warehouse buzzed with forklifts and the sound of cardboard tearing. The night crew was lean, maybe 7 or 8 people, and they moved fast. Emilio introduced him to a few others. Tanya, who didn't say much but worked like a machine. Marcus, who had a limp and kept rubbing his shoulder. And Farah, a single mom who kept her phone in her back pocket and checked it during breaks. "Manager's name is Dave," Emilio muttered. "He usually shows up around midnight, stays till 2 or so. Doesn't do much, but if he likes you, your schedule's safe. If not, good luck." Pierce didn't reply. He just kept unloading boxes, watching, listening. By 1 a.m., he already had questions. Why was Marcus lifting heavy boxes alone when there were supposed to be 2-person lift rules? Why was Farah stacking pallets near an exit door with no cones or signs, right where someone could trip? And why did the back loading dock smell like something had leaked and dried up weeks ago? Still, the crew worked hard. No one slacked. They were clearly picking up the slack for something or someone. At 1:14 a.m., Pierce was heading toward the back storage aisle when he heard a sharp voice. "Don't touch that. Just stack over it." He turned the corner and stopped. There, under a tarp, was a broken shelf. Cracked metal, jagged edges, definitely a hazard. And standing in front of it was a tall man with a manager badge. "Dave." Pierce watched from behind a stack of toilet paper as Tanya approached. "Dave, we should tag that. It's not safe." Dave shook his head. "You tag it, it goes in the report. Report goes to corporate. I'm not getting chewed out again because some idiot tripped on a busted shelf. Just stack boxes in front of it. No one needs to know." Tanya hesitated. "But," I said, "stack over it." She bit her lip, then turned away. Pierce felt his jaw clench. He stayed hidden, heart pounding. That shelf was dangerous. If someone brushed against it or if a box fell the wrong way. He waited until Dave walked off, then walked over. Tanya was still nearby. "That's not right," Pierce said quietly. She looked at him. "You're new. You don't get how it works." "I know what I saw." She shrugged and walked away. For the rest of the shift, Pierce couldn't focus. Too many questions. Too much wrong. Good people doing their best, being pushed into silence. At the end of the night, Emilio clapped him on the shoulder. "You kept up. You'll probably get called back." Pierce gave a tight nod. He left the building at 6 a.m., stepped into the rising sun, and took a deep breath. He'd seen enough to know this wasn't just a numbers issue. It was a leadership one, and it was time to fix it. Pierce returned the following night just before 11, walking in through the side employee entrance where a flickering motion light buzzed overhead. Inside, the break room was half-lit with a yellowing microwave humming in the corner and a stack of crumpled safety posters curling off the wall. No sign of Dave yet. Tanya sat alone at the folding table eating a sandwich from a paper towel. She glanced up. "You came back." Pierce sat across from her. Yeah. Wanted to see if the shelf was still there. She wiped her hands, not looking up. It is. You won't see it during shift, though. Got buried behind a shipment of dog food pallets. He was about to ask more when the door banged open and Emilio strolled in, tossing his hoodie on a chair. Jake, you're on aisle 7 tonight. Pet supplies. Tanya's on 6. Marcus is already unloading the truck. Farah's late again. Again? Pierce asked. Emilio shrugged. Her sitter quit. She's been scrambling for coverage. Dave said one more late clock in and he cuts her hours. Pierce stood. She's got kids, right? 2. Emilio pulled on his gloves. Doesn't matter. Dave doesn't do exceptions. You don't meet quota or follow schedule, you're out. That's his whole thing. Pierce walked to the back, heart ticking faster. He passed the untagged shelf now barely visible beneath 2 pallets and made a mental note to photograph it later. At aisle 7, he started breaking down boxes of cat litter, careful to keep his movements efficient. It didn't take long to notice the floor layout made no ergonomic sense. Heavy bags on top shelves, narrow spaces between stacks, and no clear emergency path if something fell. At midnight, Dave arrived. He didn't greet anyone, just walked straight into the office behind the loading dock. A few minutes later, he emerged, holding a clipboard and a half-eaten granola bar. He made a quick round, checking the tag boards, then stood near the center aisle, watching the crew work. At one point, Marcus passed by with a dolly full of dry food bags. Dave flagged him down. You limping again? He asked, chewing. Marcus shifted his weight. Just sore. I can still move. Yeah? You clocked in late last week. You get slow on me now, I'll cut your shifts. Don't need pity cases screwing up the pace. Pierce paused mid-stack. He felt the urge to say something, but Marcus just nodded and shuffled on. Dave moved on without another word. Later, while restocking dog collars, Pierce caught Tanya glancing down the aisle toward Dave's office. That happen a lot? He asked quietly. She sighed. If you're not perfect, he finds something. If you're too fast, he says you're bragging. Too slow, you're lazy. I've seen 2 temps cry in the break room their first week. Pierce nodded toward the back. And no one reports him? You think HR cares? She said. They don't come out here. They just send forms. And half the crew is part-time. No benefits, no leverage. A loud crash broke the moment. Farah had just entered, trying to lift a box too quickly. One side collapsed, and canned dog food spilled across the floor. Jesus, Farah, Dave barked, appearing instantly. You show up 30 minutes late and now this? She crouched to clean up. I'm sorry my neighbor bailed on watching my kids. I didn't have anyone else. Dave stepped closer. Then maybe this job doesn't work for you. You've been late 3 times this month. I'm trying, she said, voice shaking. I'm not asking for anything extra. Just some understanding. You're asking for my patience, which you've already used up. Pierce stepped forward. She's here. She's working. The floor's not exactly built for speed. Dave turned. You've been here what, 2 nights? Don't lecture me on my team. Pierce met his stare. Your team's running on fumes. That's not leadership. Dave's jaw tightened. You know what? Finish your shift. Then don't come back. We've got plenty of temp agencies. Farah stared at the floor, frozen. Pierce didn't reply. He picked up a can and handed it to her. She took it silently. After shift, Emilio found him in the break room. You really pushing it, man? Dave doesn't like being called out. I've noticed. Emilio leaned against the refrigerator. You want the truth? Half the night crew's looking for other jobs. Tanya's thinking of quitting. Marcus has been icing his shoulder in the bathroom every break. Nobody says anything because they need the hours. Pierce sat back. Where's the district manager in all this? Visits once a month. Dave walks them through, scripts everything. Tells us to keep questions to ourselves. That morning, Pierce didn't go home. He sat in his car, parked in an empty corner of the lot, and typed out everything he'd seen. Names, incidents, timestamps. Then he opened the store's internal HR portal and started combing through past reports. There were 5 injury claims from the last 3 months, all from night shift. Each had been resolved with minimal follow-up. One involved a sprained wrist from a fall near the back exit. Another listed repetitive strain, likely Marcus. None had photos attached. No safety audits were filed in that time frame. By late morning, he drove to the corporate office and requested a closed-door meeting with the head of HR and the regional director. He placed his phone on the table and played the voice recording he'd captured of Dave threatening Marcus. When it ended, the room was silent. The HR director spoke first. "How long has this been going on?" Pierce looked at her. "Long enough that it became normal." The regional director exhaled slowly. "We'll need to investigate." "No," Pierce said. "That store gets cleaned up today. Not next week. Not after a review. Today. Dave's done. The night crew gets hazard pay until we overhaul the layout. And we bring in a full-time safety officer, starting tomorrow." The HR director nodded. "Understood." Pierce stood. "And I'll be the one to tell them." He returned to store for that night, this time in his usual clothes. Word had already spread that someone from corporate was coming. When he walked onto the floor, everyone stopped. Dave stepped out of the office, confused. "Can I help you?" Pierce didn't wait. "You can gather the crew." Within minutes, the night shift gathered near the break room. Farah stood near the back, arms crossed. Emilio leaned against a pillar. Marcus held a heating pad against his shoulder. Pierce looked at them. "My name is Pierce Callahan. I own this company." The silence was instant. Emilio blinked. Tanya's mouth dropped slightly. Dave looked like he was trying to process what he'd just heard. "I came in undercover to see what was happening here. What I found was a team trying to hold this place together in spite of poor leadership and unsafe conditions." He turned to Dave. "You're no longer employed here. Effective immediately." Dave opened his mouth to respond, but Pierce raised a hand. "There is no discussion. Your treatment of these employees has been unacceptable. The company will not tolerate it." A security officer escorted Dave out. Pierce turned back to the crew. "Starting tonight, your hours are protected. You'll be paid retroactive hazard bonuses for the past 2 months. And we're bringing in help to fix the layout, address every safety issue, and audit every injury claim." Marcus shifted his weight. "For real?" "Yes. And if anyone ever threatens your job over a medical condition or a family emergency again, I want to be the first call." Farah wiped her eyes. "I didn't think anyone cared." Pierce nodded. "Now you know someone does." The crew dispersed slowly, processing the change. Tanya walked past him on her way to the floor. About time someone remembered we're people, not numbers. Pierce watched her go, then rolled up his sleeves. There was still a shift to get through. By nightfall, word had spread across the remaining shifts. The tension that usually clung to the Elmswood store's night crew had shifted into something else: cautious curiosity. No one quite knew what to expect now that the owner himself had shown up and removed their manager on the spot. But there was no celebration. Just quiet recalibration. Pierce showed up early again, this time with someone new beside him. Nora Delgado, a workplace safety consultant with 2 decades of experience and zero tolerance for corner cutting. She carried a small notepad, a laser measurer clipped to her belt, and a sharp, unfazed expression that said she didn't miss a thing. "Where's your doc map?" she asked as soon as they stepped into the receiving bay. Pierce nodded toward Emilio, who was stacking crates near the back. "He's been here over a year. If anyone knows the workflow, it's him." Emilio straightened up as they approached. "You're back. Every night this week," Pierce said. "And this is Nora. She's here to help us fix what should have been fixed years ago." Nora didn't wait for introductions. "Can you walk me through how inventory is routed from the truck to aisle placement?" Emilio blinked, then set his gloves on a nearby crate. "Sure. But it's not pretty." As Emilio walked her through the convoluted path of pallets, overflow zones, and awkward corners, Pierce headed toward the break room. The door was cracked open and voices filtered out low, uncertain. "What if it only lasts a week?" Tanya's voice? "Then it's back to the same old thing." "I don't think he's bluffing," Marcus replied. "You think a guy with his name on the trucks comes out here for fun?" Farah responded quietly. "I think he saw us. That's more than anyone's done." Pierce stepped in without knocking. They turned, surprised but not startled. "I don't have a speech," he said. "Just a question." They waited. "What would make this job easier for you?" "Not perfect. Just sustainable." Tanya leaned against the counter. "Stop making us move things twice. We unload, sort, then someone decides to rearrange everything halfway through the shift." Marcus nodded. "And when something breaks, fix it. Don't just throw a tarp over it." Farah looked up. "And if someone's got a family emergency, don't punish them for it." Pierce didn't write anything down. He didn't need to. "I'm working on new protocols. Tonight, we start by mapping the whole back room. I want to see where every safety risk is. After that, we're redoing the stock rotation system." Tanya raised an eyebrow. "All in one night?" "No," he said. "But we start now." Outside, Nora was already measuring the distance between aisles. "These walkways don't meet OSHA minimums," she said flatly. "And you've got blind corners near hazardous loads. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen." "Noted," Pierce said. "What's your priority?" "Lighting," she said. "Corners are underlit. Emergency exits are half blocked. And your fire extinguishers zip-tied to a pipe." Across the floor, Pierce spotted someone new moving carts toward the freezer section. He didn't recognize the face. Young, tall, looked nervous. He walked over. "Hey, what's your name?" The worker froze, then turned. Damien. First night. Who gave you your walkthrough?" "No one. They just told me to start on aisle 2. Said someone would check in later." Pierce blinked. "You weren't shown the exits? Safety zones?" Damien shook his head. "I figured I'd pick it up." Pierce turned sharply toward Tanya, who had just walked by. "Did you know we had a new hire tonight?" She stopped. "No. I thought orientation was paused until the new manager came in." "That was the plan," he said. Apparently someone didn't get the message. He pulled out his phone and called the district office. "Who authorized new staffing at Elmswood tonight?" After a pause, the voice on the other end replied, "Looks like Assistant Manager Hollins approved it. Said they were short." Pierce frowned. "Hollins isn't cleared to override hiring holds. Send me his contact and freeze any further placements until I say otherwise." He hung up and turned back to Damien. "You're not in trouble. But from now on, no one works a shift here without a proper walkthrough. Emilio will get you up to speed." As the night stretched on, Nora continued her assessment. She flagged 14 violations including wires running across walk paths, expired fire exit signs, and a broken emergency light near the dairy fridge. By 3 a.m., she had a full report ready for Pierce. "These aren't just oversights," she said. "They're patterns. Someone deliberately skipped maintenance to save time." Pierce nodded. "We'll bring in a third-party safety crew to handle repairs. And I want the entire maintenance schedule reviewed store-wide." Nora tapped the report. "You'll need someone here full-time to enforce it. One audit won't change the culture." He looked toward the loading dock, where Marcus had just finished stacking an entire row of bulk cleaners slowly, carefully, with one hand supporting his shoulder. "I think I've got someone in mind." At the end of the shift, Pierce called the team together. They looked tired, but no longer guarded. "I'm offering Marcus a new role, safety liaison. He'll be trained, certified, and will report directly to me. His job will be to identify risks, propose fixes, and make sure no one cuts corners." Marcus blinked. "You sure?" "I'm not exactly management material." "You've been doing the job without the title," Pierce said. "Now you'll have both." The others clapped, not loud, but real. Pierce turned to the rest of the crew. "We'll be hiring a new night manager, but I want your input. You'll be part of the interview panel." Tanya tilted her head. Seriously, you know what this place needs better than anyone." Farah raised her hand slightly. "What if the new person ends up like the last one? Then you let me know, and I'll be back here before they finish their second shift." She nodded slowly. As the sun began to rise outside, Pierce stayed behind. He helped Nora load her gear, then walked back through the store one last time. It was still messy, still inefficient, but something underneath it had shifted. Not fixed, just finally facing the truth. Before leaving, he stopped by the dry goods aisle where Damien was breaking down empty boxes. "You settling in?" "Yeah," he said. "Thanks for earlier. It's different having someone actually check." Pierce smiled faintly. "It won't be the last time." He walked out through the side door, past the flickering motion light still waiting to be replaced. Tomorrow they'd start on the rest of the stores. But tonight Elmswood stood a little straighter. By the beginning of the following week, the warehouse had already begun to change in subtle ways. The broken shelving unit was gone, replaced with a reinforced rack designed for heavier loads. Emergency lights had been installed along the back walkways. The floor layout was still tight, but Nora had flagged the worst choke points, and a third-party crew had started clearing them out one section at a time. It was slow progress, but it was visible. Pierce returned that Monday night with a clipboard in hand and a new face beside him, a candidate for the open night manager position. Her name was Iris Chin, and she came with 15 years of store-level leadership experience and a reputation for rebuilding dysfunctional teams. She didn't speak much during their walkthrough, but her eyes moved constantly, picking up every missed label and uneven stack. When they reached the back break room, Pierce motioned inside. Tanya, Emilio, Farah, and Marcus were already seated, each with a printed evaluation sheet clipped to a folder. Pierce looked at Iris. "This is your interview panel." She nodded once, then stepped in. The team didn't ease into it. Tanya leaned forward. "What do you do when someone on your crew tells you a process is unsafe, but the numbers say it's efficient?" Iris thought for a moment. "Then the numbers are incomplete. Metrics don't account for people getting hurt. If someone flags a risk, I stop the process until we find a better way." Emilio crossed his arms. "What if that gets you behind on deadlines? Then I explain to corporate why we're behind. And I don't blame the team, I take that heat myself." Farah glanced down at her sheet. "You've worked day shifts mostly, right? How do you plan to adapt to a crew that runs with half the resources and twice the demands?" "I don't assume anything," Iris said. "I learn the flow from the inside first. I'll stock, I'll unload, I'll sweep the floors if I have to. No clipboard until I've done what you do." Marcus tapped his pen lightly. "And if someone's got an injury on the job? Not a serious one, just enough to slow them down. Then we document it, adapt their duties, and make sure they're not punished for being human." The room went quiet. Pierce didn't say a word. He just watched. After Iris left the room, the 4 employees talked quietly, filling out their evaluations. Not long after, Pierce stepped back in. He looked at them. "Thoughts?" Tanya nodded slowly. "She didn't say what she thought we wanted to hear. She said what made sense." Emilio added, "She didn't flinch when we pressed her. That's something." Farah offered a small shrug. "I give her a shot." Marcus just said, "Better than anyone we've had in years." Pierce stepped out and made the call. Iris would start Thursday. But before that, he had one more stop to make. The next night, he drove to the regional office. It wasn't a scheduled visit. He headed straight for the 3rd floor and knocked on the glass door of the district operations manager, the one who had dismissed his early concerns about Store 4. When the door opened, the man inside looked up from his screen. "Pierce, I didn't know you were coming by. I didn't announce it." The man sat back. "Something wrong?" "Yes. You signed off on a schedule that let a manager actively hide safety violations for over a year. You ignored multiple red flags because the numbers were steady." "I didn't ignore them. They just didn't seem urgent." Pierce's voice stayed calm. "You saw 5 injury reports in 3 months. You saw turnover spike. You saw overtime balloon without explanation. That should have triggered a review." The man leaned forward. "Look, I get it. You went hands-on. You saw things we didn't. But I manage 6 districts. I can't chase every bump in the system." "You don't have to," Pierce said. "But you do have to listen when teams raise concerns. You're no longer in charge of Elmswood's oversight. Starting next quarter, your scope will be reduced to 4 stores. And they'll be audited monthly. If I find a repeat of what happened in Elmswood, we'll have a different conversation." The man didn't argue. He just nodded once, tight-lipped. By Thursday, Iris was suited up and walking the floor with a tablet. She didn't hover. She watched from a distance, asked quiet questions, and took notes. When a rookie misaligned a pallet, she stepped in and showed him how to correct it without raising her voice. When the freezer unit tripped its breaker mid-shift, she coordinated with maintenance and rerouted the crew without losing time. Pierce watched from the far end of the warehouse. He didn't need to intervene. That night, as the shift wound down, he gathered the crew briefly near the newly cleared safety zone behind aisle 10. "I'm stepping back after tonight," he said. "But that doesn't mean I'm disappearing." Tanya folded her arms. "You really gonna check in? Or is this just a good PR story? I'll be here once a month. No notice. No suits. And I've set up a direct inbox for every store lead it goes to me, no filters." Farah looked uncertain. What if someone steps out of line again? Another manager? Then they're gone. No warnings for abuse. Zero tolerance. "But that only works if you speak up." Emilio nodded. "We will. Now we know you'll listen." Pierce turned to Marcus. "How's the safety tracking going?" Marcus held up a small folder. "Got 2 minor near misses logged this week. Both fixed. And I've got Farah reviewing the next zone layout." Pierce raised an eyebrow. "You two teaming up?" Farah nodded. "He's got the eye. I've got the system." Pierce smiled. "Keep that going." Before leaving, he pulled Tanya aside. "You've been steady through all of this. I want to offer you the assistant night manager role under Iris. Full-time, salaried, with benefits." She blinked. "You sure? I'm not the most diplomatic person. You're honest. You hold the line. Iris needs that." She didn't answer right away. Then finally, "Okay, I'll do it. But I expect her to hold the line too." "She will. You'll keep each other sharp." As the crew returned to work, Pierce walked the perimeter of the warehouse one last time. The air still smelled like cardboard and cleaning solution. The lights buzzed a little too brightly in places. But the building felt different. Not perfect, not fixed, but no longer ignored. Before stepping out into the night, he paused at the employee board. A new header had been pinned above it. "Every shift matters." He didn't write it. Someone else had. No signature, just a quiet declaration. Pierce nodded once, then stepped into the dark.